Yo guys, welcome to the video. This is Josh or Milky, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the latest patch in Path of Exile. So if you know from the last video, or I'm sure you heard it, everyone was obviously a buzz about it, there was a pretty crazy farming strategy that was eradicating the economy. But today, GGG put out a patch that removed one of the affixes that made it possible. And it's completely, you are unable to do it anymore. So new strategies will need to be found. They also nerfed the Anarchy Allflame that was kind of the culprit. But another thing they did was add a new Allflame. Well, they didn't actually add it. It was bugged. It was supposed to be appearing since the start of the league, and it didn't until today. And now you can access these Allflames. I did hear that maybe a couple of them were floating around before today, but the patch has hit. And they are very available, and you can now make what can only be described as impossible items. For example, we here have a fractured 2x Imperial Claw that is both Shaper, as you can see from the top right indicator, and Elder, as you can see from the modifiers. This was made using the Necropolis crafting mechanic. This is something you can do now. This is something you can experiment with and play with, and we'll talk about this in a second a bit further. Also, a sacrificial garb with +1 level of socket, skill gem, spell crit, explode, fizz taken as cold, chaos. You can do some crazy stuff with the Necropolis League mechanic, even crazier than before in terms of the items you can make. You can even go ahead and make yourself some Blizzard Crowns if you would like to make a Blizzard Crown with specific modifiers. I have had some with like socket spells have crit chance and hypothermia or area of effect, the kind of thing people are normally after. Yeah. I mean, I shouldn't need to tell you, this is crazy, crazy stuff. But how is this possible? Well, first, let's show the coffin that is responsible for this. There is now a coffin that says has Shaper or Elder influence, 200% increased chance of influence modifiers. And this is also for Conqueror. So we can look for has a random Conqueror influence, 200% increased chance of influence modifiers, has a random Conqueror influence. So bear in mind, these are very random. Obviously, between Shaper and Elder, you've got a 50-50 to hit the influence you want. And with Conqueror, you have a 1 in 4 to hit the one you want. So how did we make these items? Well, first of all, let's talk about how I go about making crafts in general, as it is a pretty common question. If you come on over to my spreadsheet, I have some basic setups that I use here. For example, we have the basic 300% additional corner that I use, let's call it that. And it would be something like this, except remove all the split and fractured chance. I'm not sure why it's not loading correctly, but the basic 300 link should just show this corner here. If you can see this columns, these rows, these additional crafts, and these 40%. So you only need 5 additional craft coffins in order to get 3 additional crafts with your Necropolis. Now, I did go a step further because a lot of the crafts that I've been doing use fracture and split in order to get 4 modifiers that are then all fractured. And then the item is split in half, and 2 of each I'll put onto each. Now, people have been asking me, why would you want to do this? Why not just have 4 modifiers? Why split it? And the reason is it's very difficult to force 4 modifiers to be exactly the ones that you want. It's much easier to get 2 modifiers amongst 4 be the ones you want, and then attempt to split them off. It's a 1 in 3 chance to split correctly, and obviously you want to get the mod. So we'll show it, for example, with the body armor that I've been crafting. You would here have 96% chance if you did this exactly how it says here, but there are some problems with this. This has included an extra explicit modifier, so we want to remove that immediately. And there we go, it says 88% chance. It's going to be slightly more than that because it doesn't account for this 200% increased chance of influence modifiers, so it's actually going to be much more in our favor. So we have an 88% chance to hit the modifiers we want if we use this recipe, and then we have a 1 in 3 to fracture the modifiers we want. So you can divide this by 3, it's roughly a 30% chance that we hit the item that we want. Of course, you have to also roll Shaper, so it's not guaranteed. It's about a 1 in 6 to hit exactly this combination of modifiers, fractured and split onto the item you want. Now, this is just one example, obviously. Not every item you're going to want to do it with this method. It's just the one that I've been using to create bases. Now, if you've not used this tool before, Pseudos, this is just the one that I'm accustomed to. There are other tools. I've no problem with the other tools. This is just the one that I've been using and I'm used to. So you can come in here, copy the Craft of Exile string, scroll down and paste it into here. What that's going to do is it's going to add all these modifiers that you've got into Pseudos, and you can actually simulate the placement. And you can ask it to leave you with some cells remaining. I don't really mind. I want maybe 2 open to add in the influence mods, and then 1 for an additional level because I need it to be 86. So we'll get it to 86. We'll leave 5 open, start the simulation. This is going to freeze your browser. You're going to need to wait for it to do it. So I'll skip forward with some studio magic to when this finishes. So here we are, this is ran the simulation and it has placed all of the tiles exactly where I want them in order to get what we want. So if we come to the right here, the recipe said that we needed 1200 modifier weighting, boom, we needed 300%, 100%, 400%, and then all these modifiers exactly how we need them. We actually do need a bit more crit though, it couldn't fit in the crit. Now it's not always perfect, and obviously we are taking up a lot of space with our meta crafting options, so we can't quite get all the crit in. Now one thing I want to show you with this tool is this will really overestimate how much of certain things you need in order to bump up the percent by a small amount. So this modifier tier weighting wants me to get 1200. What happens if I remove, let's say 6? The percent went down by about 1. And if I remove another 6, the percent went down by another 1. So you have to ask yourself if 12 spaces in your Necropolis is worth that 2% chance. So arguably it is, because it means you have to use the Necropolis less often, but this frees up space to get in some of the other modifiers that you couldn't realistically fit. Sometimes you're going to have to make some cutbacks on the percentage in order to get everything in, and that's just the cost of trying to run it additional times with this setup here. It's just how it goes. So we end up bringing it down to about 83%, and this is very easy to fit in. We decided to drop some tier rating, and then we add in crit, and now boom, we're exactly where we want to be. Everything's 100%. Except the tier rating, but as we've just said, we don't care about that. So that's something you can do. You could go and do this right now. You can take my standard setups that I'm using and import your recipes into it using that simulation tool. It does take a couple of minutes to do, but you can do that for any recipe. Now I will be adding recipes to the sheet as I go, as I've said I will. The Blizzard Crown is already on here. My Claw and Wand that I've been working on are here, but I haven't fully tested these yet. I'll put the Sacrificial Garb one on here as well. I could actually do this right now, right? So we can export this. Once you're done with it, generate a URL, and we just pop it straight in here. And then you could come, if you wanted to, and just copy this and make yourself some sacrificial garbs. Now this is obviously kind of a new form of item, a fractured influenced item. So what can you actually do with it? And my answer is, it's buggy. I don't know if this is intended. I don't know if you're meant to be able to do this, but there are times where I've tried to fracture something and it hasn't worked, and then I've clicked it a second later and it has. For example, never have I fractured a fractured item onto another fractured item. I guess you can do that, but sometimes not. So maybe I could sit here and click it forever, and eventually it would work. There you go, it worked. So the rules, I don't know, but what I've been doing is just grabbing another fractured item and awakening and robbing it on. I don't know whether this is intended, an accident, by design, whatever. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about it. You could see then that clearly something weird was happening, and eventually it fractured together. So you can also elevate mods on like the chest and stuff like that. You can't elevate mods within the fracture. You can't affect them as you wouldn't be able to any other way. Yeah, I mean, as to what just happened, was the crit damage fractured before and it became unfractured? I think it did, right? So God knows. God only knows what the rules are. I'll be working on it a bit more. Well, here we go. You can make some crazy items now. Have fun with that one. Now you may be asking yourself, how far can you take this? And my answer is, how big is your imagination? You can see a chest like this one right here, a grasping male, has 2 fractured modifiers. It has a conqueror elevated intelligence roll with plus level of intelligence gems, fizz taken as cold, and increased aura effect with crafted on percent attributes. This is obviously up for a mirror service, but there are plenty of other items here as well that you can see people have been working on now that these new techniques are available. There is a ton to do and a ton to explore if you're someone that wants to do it, or if not, you can wait obviously for other people to make them. But if you are excited to try this out, do let me know. I'll be cooking up some recipes. I pretty much crafted the whole day, ended up burning all my currency on that chest because I hit a really bad awaken orb and I had to annul it a few times. If you're ever unsure about anything, do either pop into stream and let me know, or leave me an aggressively worded message in the comments, because those are the ones that I will notice most of the time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.